Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to pay respects to and honour our friend, the dear departed Seiko SKX.
Pull yourself together, man. It's just a watch. It's not just a watch. It's the Seiko
Only in
SKX.
their 20s, but they will live on forever in our hearts and in our minds. Amen.
Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Surely it is high time we buried the SKX. It has been dead for the last 2 years now after all. I thought therefore this would be my final, probably, set of SKX mods. Every time I mod an SKX I do something slightly different, and today is no exception. I'm going to do the NH36, the big movement swap, Sapphire crystal as usual, but today lume, lume and more lume, and a fitted rubber end link strap, something I haven't done before. Now a few shout outs are in order, a few thank yous, because I got sent a few freebie parts to help with today's video. Big shout out to NAMOKI mods who sent me a fresh NH36. My man Carlos at Loom Ceramic Bezel Inserts, I'll leave it up to your imagination what he sent me. ZOAN straps, they sent a range of excellent fitted end-link rubber straps designed just for the SKX. And finally, HASAN sent me a couple of these Seiko SKX t-shirts. He sells them on Redbubble. I think they look fantastic. I'll leave links to all of those in the description of the video. Alright, let's get on with the mods. And here is today's donor watch. This is a couple of years old, previously tinkered with SKX 009. As you can see, I put a stealth bezel in there and the loom pip fell out. It's also a rather old Jubilee. I'm going to keep the Jubilee, obviously I do like it, but I'm going to fit that fitted end link ZOAN rubber strap today. Now this one is previously barked up. I had a crack at removing the bezel a while ago and didn't make a good job on it. I guess there's two ways to remove the bezel on this one, the right way and the wrong way, and I'm going to show you the right way today. Plenty to be going on with though. It won't look like this come the end of the video. So here are the selection of parts that will be fitted hopefully by the end of today's vid. NH36 with new crown stem and new crown. That is a piece of sapphire I got from ALIEXPRESS with red anti-reflective coating. From Loom Ceramic Bezel Inserts we have a Loom Ceramic Bezel Insert and also a fully loomed chapter ring. I did say loom, loom and more loom today, and not one, not two, but three different ZOAN straps. I think I'm going to go for the blue. I think that will tie in nicely with the bezel insert and the dial of the 009. Alright, first things first, take off the original Jubilee bracelet. Bergeon 6767 is the one decent tool I own. It has come in so handy over the years. Movement into the movement clamp to get this case back off. I think this one's been off once or twice before though, no problems at all there. Now I'm going to re-oil those case back gasket seals towards the end of the video. Now how do you remove the crown from a 7S26? This is the original SKX movement. Well, we're going to go macro here. You can see there's a little lever. You pull the crown out to the first position, depress the lever, and the crown will just slide out from there. A little tweak with the Bergeon. Movement pops out under a dust cover and to one side for now. Okay, the right way to take the bezel off an SKX. You don't even need to mask the thing up. Just use one of these case back removal tools and get it between the lugs. So between the case and the bezel, between the lugs. Push it down on a surface, wedge it in, squeeze it from side to side, and hey presto, it just pops off. No problems at all, no scratched up lugs this time around. Next up, I'm going to take the Hardlex crystal out of here using my eBay 18 Aussie dollar crystal press. Find the right dies, one for the bottom that holds it secure, one for the top that doesn't foul the Hardlex, and Bob's your uncle. Very satisfying, if slightly scary, crack when that happens. Okay, so the Hardlex came out there, the chapter ring came out there, however, the crystal gasket stayed in situ, and I'm delighted with that, so I'm just going to go full steam ahead there and put in the new chapter ring and the new crystal. Gloves are on for this. Here is the fully loomed chapter ring. Now it doesn't have a notch, so there's no way of securing it into the case. What I'm going to do therefore is I'm going to use just a little bit of this GS Hypo Cement, a touch at the top, a touch at the bottom, not really to stick it down, more to secure it in place while I get the sapphire to make sure it all lines up. And hey, if I don't get it quite right, it's a Seiko after all. Sapphire crystal, this one from AliExpress, as I said, those are the statistics you need, the size, the shape, etc. But I will leave a link. I went for red this time. I've never had red before. Again, I thought that would tie in nicely with the bezel. There it is compared to the Hardlex. It's going to look spectacular, I think. So what I'm going to do here, I've kind of developed my own technique for inserting sapphire crystals over the last 4 or 5 times that I've done it. just gently hand press it and try and kind of squeeze it in to get an even purchase all the way around. Then I select another couple of dies, one for underneath, one for the top, and I don't just give it one big push, I give it a number of little pushes around the edges to make sure it's going in evenly all the way down. If I zoom in on this one, I was very happy with how that went in. Nicely seated, nice and even, no sloping or slanting crystal here whatsoever. Job is a good one, thumbs up for that. Alright, how am I going to get this old ceramic bezel insert out of the bezel? I'm guessing I stuck it in with plenty of GS hypo cement, so I'm going to need a knife here. I'm going to wedge the knife on the underside of that, give it a little back and forth, and it will pop off. Plenty of old GS hypo cement residue there, not too difficult to remove. I didn't even need to use the Goo Gone, just a minute or so scraping it away with the Bourgeon, and it was all clean and tidy. At this point, I'm not going to put the bezel insert in yet, I'm going to leave that till the end, but I am going to put the bezel back on. Again, select a die from the crystal press that supports the case underneath, select a die for the top that doesn't foul the new sapphire crystal, give it a squeeze and you will get a very satisfying crack with this one as the bezel reseats itself. I didn't remove the spring clip at any point, that was all still in situ as well. Okay, dial and hands, time to bring them back. I got a couple of these Bourgeon dial protectors a few years ago. You can make your own from a piece of plastic or polythene or whatever you like. And that is a Presto hand remover, so called because give it a squeeze and hey presto, all three hands come off at once. Nice and easy. So to remove the dial, you're looking to get a flat screwdriver underneath it at the point that has a nice access point for a flat screwdriver. Just be gentle, you don't want to bend the two dial pins, one on each side. Squeeze it off evenly and off it comes. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the movement holder off of the 7S26, that's the black one, and I'm going to put it on the NH36 in just a minute or two. What I need to do first though is transfer the day wheel from one to the other. It's not because I have a particular penchant for French rather than a Kenji day wheel, it's because it doesn't work properly. Otherwise it doesn't sit clearly in the window. Using a very small screwdriver, there's a central washer that just sits around the pinion holding that day wheel in place. I actually had switched to the macro lens and I had filmed all of it. It's very, very easy. Unfortunately, I hadn't pressed record, so you'll have to take my word for it. If you're going to junk the 7S26, if you have no plans to use that, I guess you get a spare washer, so even if you Muller one, you've still got a spare one, but it gets easier every time I do it. It wasn't a problem at all, I promise you. Now this is important, when you're transferring the day wheel from the 7S26 over to the NH36, you have to make sure it is seated properly. I just kind of gently rolled it back and forth until it dropped into place and sat flush with the date wheel. At that point, I knew I had it in the right spot. What I did then was reseated that central washer. I had two good ones to choose from because I did a nice neat job on this occasion. Just squeezed it down with the aid of some plastic tweezers there, and the first check of many to make sure that everything was lined up, everything was neat and tidy. Alright, next up I'm going to transfer the black movement holder from the 7S26, replacing the grey movement holder on the NH36. It didn't take a minute, I promise you. Then just reverse the procedure with the dial, using those two pins, gently locating them, making sure you're not bending anything, some gentle pressure all round to make sure it's seated, and one more check of that movement to make sure it is working properly. Alright, now at this point I do actually care about where the movement is in relation to the hands. What I'm going to do is roll it over so you just see that date click over. That's when I know the movement is at midnight. I'm going to apply the hour hand first and I'm going to align it vertically at midnight. So in theory, when I've got all of these hands on, it should tick over bang on midnight. Alright, hour hand is the easiest. Roll that around to 6 o'clock and squeeze on the minute hand at the 6 p.m. effectively. Minute hand isn't too bad either. I'm using these hand pushers. I used to use the machine, but now I found the kind of free and easy ones, the freestyle ones, do a better job. Less chance of bending them, I found. The second hand though is a bit of a bugger, I'm afraid. I recommend using a loop. It's certainly not something I needed for the first couple of times, but it does make it much easier to get that second hand located on the pinion the first time rather than the fourth, the fifth or the sixth time. The second hand is a bit fiddly, so I did that one off camera, but it seemed to go on no problem, and using the loop it was nice and simple this time. Again, check the movement, check the hands aren't fouling each other, check the second hand spins free, check the hour hand isn't being fouled by the minute hand, etc, etc. Check those date and day wheels are still ticking over nicely. Looks like I've got all three hands and the dial back on in one piece, thankfully. Alright, next thing is to remove the crown from the NH36. You unfortunately cannot just transfer the crown and crown stem over from these two movements. You do have to get a specific crown stem for the NH36, cut it to size and attach the crown. I'll do that in just a minute. I'm going to give these two a puff the dial, make sure there's no dust, puff the case, make sure there's no dust, and just pop it gently on top, flip it over, a little bit of even pressure to make sure it's seated, flip it back over just to make sure that everything is nice and neatly lined up. And then, you know what, it looks like I've done a pretty good job on that chapter ring. A little bit of hypo cement definitely helped the cause there. The sapphire crystal will keep it in situ forever. Okay, this is my new crown stem and crown. The crown stems though are supplied, unless you get a one that's custom fitted for the SKX, they're supplied far too long, so I am going to have to cut that. Once again, just checking that everything works before I cut it. Now I measured this with my calipers. I measured it at 7mm, just over 7mm. I measured it again, I measured it at just over 7mm. I then marked the stem with a pen, having removed the crown, and I clipped it using a pair of clippers. Previously, I've been a bit cautious, kind of clipping in towards the right length of stem. This time, a bit more confidence, having done it before. I got it right first time as well. I was pretty happy about that. But you do need to put a little bit of Loctite on the end of that crown stem just to make sure it doesn't end up stuck in the movement while the crown ends up rolling around the floor somewhere. Reinsert it one final time, screw it all down, and we are on the home stretch here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a couple of years old, this watch, so I thought I better re-oil that case back gasket, seat it in place, and just put the case back on hand tight this time. Again, making sure everything is good, there's no dust under there before getting the old clamp out and giving it a proper tighten. That one is not going to be coming off in a hurry, I promise you. Penultimate job then is to fit the LUUUUUME ceramic bezel insert. Now the reason you don't fit it into the bezel before this stage is again to ensure that everything lines up nicely. You put the bezel on first and then you put the bezel insert into the bezel, ensuring it all lines up at 12 o'clock. Now this one comes with 3M pads, however I'm a fan of the GS Hypo Cement, so all the way around the outer edges, meaning that when you press the insert in, it doesn't spread back towards that sapphire crystal and leave a mess. Enough to make sure that it's going nowhere then, but not so much that it leaks everywhere. Squeeze it on, make sure it all lines up. Fantastic. Finally, it's the ZOAN fitted end-link rubber strap. Big difference these things make, I think. Fitted end links always look bespoke. They always look like they're made for the watch rather than a kind of off-the-shelf aftermarket item. This one's high quality, nice taper down from 22 to 18, and a brushed buckle with the ZOAN branding on there. And it looks fantastic. What do you reckon? First time I've used that red AR coating on the crystal, and I think it really sets this one off. I didn't change the handset out here. I left it looking like an SKX, but clearly looking like an upgraded SKX with that little red S on the crown, nice ceramic bezel insert, sapphire crystal, and that lovely fitted rubber strap. Let's put it on wrist. Very nice indeed. You've all seen an SKX before. You've all seen a modded SKX before. This one I think looks kind of stock, but a little bit modded at the same time, which is the look I was going for. I've got a black 007 that's going to remain standard. This one though I thought could do with some mods, but I know you're waiting for the money shot, and there it is. Check the amount of lume on that watch. The fact that I left the hands and the dial standard means that it's Seiko LumiBright and plenty of it, but check the amount of lume coming off that ceramic bezel insert and the LUUUUUME chapter ring. First time I've used one of these, not going to be the last time I'm sure. It just takes it to another level. When I cranked the speed up, I was delighted. The LUUUUUME ceramic bezel insert hangs on in very well indeed, as does the LUUUUUME chapter ring. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I thought they'd fade first, but they hang on just as well as the hands and the dial do. So another successful set of mods, probably my last ever SKX mod, so I'm glad I didn't make a mess. Back to the money shot to finish. Thanks for watching. I will see you all in a future video.